Well, welcome, Nicky. So, what is the problem? We've read some big stats about this, that there's an urgent problem. We've got this big opportunity with green skills needed for the future, but there's a 40% gap in terms of the number of professionals who have the right qualifications. How do you see the problem? Tell us a bit more.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. And so Santander, I chair the Responsible Banking Committee at Santander UK. And obviously, sustainability is incredibly important to us as a business. We want all of our customers to prosper, and that means doing so in a sustainable way. And so we spend a lot of time talking about ESG matters. And so as part of that, we published in the course of last year 2 reports, and we're going to carry on doing this because I think thought leadership from business is really important. One on tomorrow's skills, as you said, and I'll come back to that, and one on tomorrow's homes, because actually we know that one of the things we need to do in order to hit the net zero targets, which as a group we are committed to hitting net zero by 2050 in alignment with the Paris climate goals, we've got to green our housing stock, and we are a big mortgage lender. But the stat that really jumped out to me from the Tomorrow Skills report we did, it was that less than half of those we surveyed thought green skills would be beneficial for their careers. And I think that's the thing that we need to shift, the conversation we were having just before this session, which is actually how do we encourage, and this is the role of business, how do we encourage our customers, our employees, to really think that actually sustainability and therefore having the skills to ensure a sustainable future are going to be beneficial to them as well as to the planet. Because in my experience as a former politician, to really get people to change, you have got to make it clear that actually that change is going to be beneficial to them and to their families and to their own community and local environment as much as it's going to be beneficial to the country and to the planet.
Brilliant. So then we'll move to, well, how do we go about this? What is the role of business? What are some examples from what Santander has done that we can learn from? And what's the role of government in facilitating or incentivizing these changes? And just to pause for a minute, there will be a chance for you to ask questions. So please add questions to Slido. They'll pop up on the screen, and then we'll pull some of them out a little bit later. So firstly, what is the role of business? What can business do to address this problem?
Well, look, I think business has got a unique relationship, both with, as I say, our own employees, of whom, we've got thousands in the UK and obviously many more in the global business. And I think perhaps sad to say, for those of us who, as I say, have been involved in politics and also the media, which is actually employers are often the most trusted people in somebody's life. And so actually if an employer, if Santander UK says this is important, we want people to learn more about sustainability, to have those skills, but also that direct relationship, as I say, with customers. And often, I think people have mixed relationships with their banks, shall we say, but I think actually that what we want our customers, say, to prosper, and therefore that means a big life decision moments. And look, there's nothing bigger often than starting your first job or buying your first home, for example. Actually, we as a bank have the ability just to say to people, what can we do to help you to green your home more, to think harder about decarbonisation, for example. What does this mean? It's a journey that we can work on together. And that's part of our transition plan that we as a UK business are working on and have approved as a Responsible Banking Committee. So I think business has got a huge part to play in all of this, and Santander UK absolutely wants to step up. The other thing, and of course, having come, as I was just saying to you, having come from sort of government side of things, I think what I'm learning now in the boardroom is that the government does have a role to play. It has a role to play really sometimes in setting frameworks and just saying this is the direction of travel. But the big role it has to play is just in providing policy stability. And of course, that's something we don't see necessarily lots of coming from over the pond at the moment. But actually, I think particularly in the UK, if the current government, the new government, is able to just say, we are committed to net zero, here is where we want to end up by 2050, just in a way, almost doing not much else, just then gives that space for business to think, actually, how do we develop the products, work with our customers, work with our employees, work with our suppliers to help to reach those goals. It's the constant chopping and changing that is so difficult often for business.
And we'll go back to some of the specific initiatives Santander's doing, because I do think they're quite interesting. Just mentioning across the pond and the changes. Does this make, will the green economy be as large? Is this skills gap really as big as the report said back in October, given the direction? And does this make it more urgent or less urgent for businesses to step in and act?
Well, I think it probably gives the impetus to business. Business absolutely has a role. And of course, we will always have, in lots of different ways, the UK's always got an eye on what's happening over in the States very much. But I think what it does is it means that we don't resile from our commitment. We don't resile from how important we think sustainability is to our business or the whole ESG agenda. But of course, I think we just have to be aware. Look, whichever jurisdiction we operate in, as a Banco Santander, including the UK or the US, we are always aware of local regulations. That's the framework that we have to operate within, which means actually, again, if the UK government is able to maintain that strong commitment, Europe is as well, then those are the rules that we are going to follow. Our US colleagues will obviously be aware of what's happening there as well. But I think, I don't think I need to preach to this audience, but I think the imperative around climate change, the need for us to be sustainable, think about our impact on the planet, is not going to go away.
Yeah. And then back to what Santander is actually doing in practical terms, because again, this conference is very much about the practical application. We agree it's all important, but what can we actually do?
Yeah.
And what has impressed you most about what Santander is doing? And then perhaps any other examples that you've seen that are really making a tangible difference at the business level?
Well, I could probably talk for the whole of the rest of the session, but I won't, because I'm conscious of the fact that there may be some questions out there and everything else. But look, I think as I was thinking about this session, I was thinking about, actually the skills and the things that we're trying to do at Santander UK are from the boardroom down, actually. So things like, obviously, our HQ now in the UK is at Milton Keynes. So we're working with Milton Keynes College. We're funding 50 places there in terms of helping people to develop, the green skills. But also in terms of our own internal, we have a sustainability development program we've just started. We've got many employees who have signed up to learn more about that. We've got the Santander Open Academy, which is a free resource for anybody to go on. Just go and search Santander Open Academy. There's a sustainability program there, along with other programs. We've had over 8,000 people sign up since that was launched in the last couple of months. But actually, even as a board director, we do training. We had the president of the previous COP, Alok Sharma, who came in to speak to us, and Chris Stark from the Climate Change Committee. We're learning all the time as well to make sure we're then able to have good conversations with management about things like the transition plan. Look, those are just a few of the things that we're doing, as well as obviously working with our suppliers and everything else to make sure we've got the best possible data. Beefing up, for example, our risk function to make sure that when we are measuring risk internally, or we're doing what the regulator wants to do in terms of stressing our portfolio to sort of test it and see what happens, people are putting the right data in there. So lots going on.
Lots going on. And where does responsibility lie most? Do you think it is at the business level? Is it in schools? We talked a little bit before this about what could be done in schools and educational settings to kind of build the kind of consumer mindset of demanding consumers who actually want this kind of support and interaction with their banks and others. And what responsibility lies at the governmental level? The obvious answer is it's a combination of all three. Like, how do you foster that collaboration and maintain them or build the momentum that is perhaps a little lacking at the moment?
Well, part of the reason for our team, doing both reports was to say to government, I think we're not alone in this. We will speak to ministers all the time. Our chief executive, Mike Rainier, will obviously be holding meetings in the Treasury, as will our, chair, William Verica, and we're all doing this. So that's part of it, to say in the reports, here's our research. This is what we think is important for government in terms of, so things like informing the government's Green Jobs Task Force. Actually, hopefully our tomorrow's skill report will say, actually, this is what we need to do to galvanise, as you say, student and workforce interest in these jobs. But ultimately, of course, business absolutely has what I'd say, working with employers. And I think the thing is about not waiting to be asked or waiting for government, important though it is. And that's why we're getting on with all these other things. And then working with schools. Part of our social strategy, which we'll be saying more about, in the course of 2025, is about working with schools and colleges very much in terms of education and employability. And as we were discussing, I think it's absolutely essential. I work with the Careers and Enterprise Company, which is something separate, but just shows that the interest, you've got to start young in terms of getting young people to be inspired by the careers that are out there and the careers that didn't exist 5 or 10 years ago well, probably, certainly I was thinking about my career a lot longer than 5 or 10 years ago. But I think, and fostering that continuous appetite for lifelong learning, which, as we were just saying, I mean, careers and sustainability might not have been a thing certainly when I started out, but now one of my great opportunities of chairing the RBC at Santander UK is I'm constantly learning new things, including about transition plans.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And there's no questions coming through on the Slido.
Got a hand over here.
Oh, there's a hand though. Old school. I like it. Okay, yeah, the lady at the front.
Hi, I'm Isabel Devan. I'm Isabel Devan at the Carbon Trust. I have, for my sins, worked on the skills agenda when I was at Renewable UK and Engineering UK. And one of the pieces of research that was found is that parents really influence children. Absolutely. I don't influence mine, but still, apparently other parents do. What do you suggest in that case can be done? Because obviously a lot of the focus goes on schools and what teachers are going to say to kids. What can be done from a almost like national campaign perspective?
So I think it's a great question. I'm sure you're probably more influential as a parent than you realise, although sometimes, of course, we're influencing what we say and then they do the opposite. So that's a sort of understanding that mindset. I think you're absolutely right. I think, don't forget, many parents will be employees of a business like Santander UK. So again, that's why talking about these things is important. I think in my experience, what most parents want is their young person to find something that is satisfying, that is going to enable them to become citizens of the world, to fund their lifestyles, if I can put it like that. And so actually the role of schools and colleges in involving parents in those careers discussions and explain to them, as I say, and often parents will advise or family will advise on the careers that they know. So actually getting parents in to say, actually, here are the things that now exist, the opportunities there. But I take your challenge, though, I think that's right. On a national level, I think for the government, so things like the Green Jobs Task Force the government set up, and making sure that ministers right across government are talking about the jobs that are available and also the economic opportunities. Because I think, again, if you're able to say to young people and parents that actually these are good jobs that are going to pay well, that are going to stand them in good stead, those are the messages that will resonate as well. Of course, some people are motivated by this is the right thing for the planet, but I think sometimes you've got to break it down, as I say, and put it a bit more in people's own personal contexts.
Thank you. And I would love to ask lots more questions. We are down to the last 30 seconds of the session.
Have you got one more?
I think we'll have to leave it till the break afterwards. But Nicky, if you're staying around a little bit afterwards, you can be asked the question. But thank you so much, Nicky Morgan, for your insights there of what can be done at the governmental, the business, and even the school and the parental level. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to find out what the best practice is and drive it forward as determinedly as we can. So thank you very much. Please join me in thanking
Flora. Thank you very much.